Government's reaction in terms of policy to COVID-19 has been pretty substantial. To get a picture of what that means for the overall economy, let's put this in the context of the aggregate demand and aggregate supply model. Here we see a lot of lines, so let's pick a spot to start. We'll start right here at this green dot. This is where we were at the end of 2019. And we can see where all the lines are crossing. So we have our short-run aggregate supply curve for 2019, and our aggregate demand curve for 2019, and our long-run aggregate curve. They all cross right here. But when things start to change, when governments start to shut things down, we can view this as a very potential and very legitimate long-run shock that could change a lot of parts of the economy for a long period of time. We lose resources, institutions are permanently affected. We'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. But people die, and we have to devote more of our capital. We move it out of production of certain kinds of goods into just into producing disease control and healthcare things. Institutionally, we now have laws that restrict movement and production. So people are not allowed to travel as much as they were. People have to stay inside, and businesses just plain get shut down. We start here at point A, which was our green dot, and then we move over here to point B. So here's our new green dot. This is our new long-run equilibrium, if indeed this is a long-run shift. And that's pretty bad. That's not a good position for anybody, and especially a government official who is looking to get reelected. So with that, we see this big decrease in aggregate demand as spending will be way less for a while. So we see that shift in aggregate demand from 80 2019 to 80 2020. The long-run curve shifts, the short-run curve shifts, and that puts us at a new equilibrium that is far less productive and far less enjoyable than where we were before. So we see the movement along the GDP axis from Y 2019 to Y 2020. The risk is that that point B ends up becoming a new long-run equilibrium where we have permanently less output, and nobody really wants that. That's a very sad position to be in. So here comes fiscal policy and fiscal policy makers wanting to do something to try to prevent that from becoming a long-run equilibrium. And of course, the major tool of fiscal policy making is a shift in the aggregate demand curve. They want to move that aggregate demand back to where it was before. So one of the ways they do that is to increase government spending. And they increase unemployment compensation so that people have more money to spend, which will increase consumption. Now, there's also a move to shift the short-run aggregate supply curve back where it came from and the long-run aggregate supply curve. That comes primarily through the subsidization of key industries and guaranteed loans for small businesses, so businesses can continue to operate. These are things that are reducing the cost of doing business and hopefully sustaining businesses over the long haul. So if everything goes as planned theoretically, then what should happen is that we move from this point B back to where we came from at point A. That's the hope of policymakers. And that's what the theory says should happen if the policy is put in place correctly. And of course, if you and I decide to go out and spend the money that we have. So we shall see. We'll try to see how good the policy is at predicting the future over the next couple of years.